Yo, yo, you are watching Not James. It's your host, Jimmy. And I was having a good time, enjoying my Saturday until the thunderstorm hit, so I had to run back in. And I was like, you know what? Let's shoot another video. My family is in town doing miscellaneous errands and stuff, and I got the house to myself, just me and the pup here. So we're gonna jump right into this reaction, and let me get the name of the YouTuber. High Intensity Health. I've been following High Intensity Health for a minute now. I think a lot of their content is low carb, but great information, and he always backs it up. We're just gonna react to this video, fat loss on a high carb diet, and I'm about to play that right now.
You lose body fat on a high carb diet? Well, a recently published case study highlights that in a calorie deficit, an individual eating a diet enriched in high glycemic index carbohydrates was able to lose significant amounts of body weight and body fat over the duration of the study. The title of this poster session is The Effect.
Right away, what caught my eye or my ear was high glycemic carbs on top of that. So we're talking the stuff that people usually try to stay away from: the popcorn, the popcorn with no butter, of course, the hard hitting sugars.
Effects of a high carbohydrate, high glycemic load, hypocaloric diet on body fat loss, a case study. Now, I think this is really interesting, and it addresses a question that many of us have had over the past, 8-9 years, and that is, how do fitness models and fitness competitors who seemingly eat a high glycemic index low diet and have things like cheat days and brownies and cookies and donuts and white rice and things like that, how can they do that in a contest prep phase while also losing body fat? And as this case study talks about, this study indicates that a carbohydrate-rich, high glycemic load hypocaloric diet is a viable strategy for losing body fat and challenges the notion that body fat cannot be reduced while consuming a high carbohydrate, high glycemic load diet. The resistance training stimulus and possibly the anti-catabolic effects of insulin that are likely increased as such a diet help to mitigate lean tissue loss and resting metabolic rate. Further discourse and application on dieting for weight loss should focus on well-structured nutritional plans that employs a sustainable caloric deficit rather than focusing on one specific macronutrient or food group. Now, I know many of you are going to be a little bit disenchanted with this finding because, as you can see from figure 1, the body fat loss over the course of 30 weeks is quite substantial. When you look at the amount of kilograms of pure fat, it's almost 22.
I don't understand why people would be disenchanted with the results of this study, because I don't understand the team carnivore, the team low fat, the team vegan. Let people eat how they want to eat. The only one that actually makes sense to me, and these are probably the more annoying people, is veganism, because at least they're like, hey, don't eat the little animals. You know what I mean? They have a reason beyond like how you want to eat. I never understood it. Like, if people are getting different results on different things and what you're doing is working and you love it, don't feel a need to change it. Don't feel a need to branch out. Or if you do, don't be disenchanted by it. Just give it a try. It's just that don't make sense to me.
Pounds of fat, which is really pretty remarkable in about 6 months or more period of time, especially because this diet included a high glycemic load diet. 60% of the calories were coming from carbohydrates, 20% protein, the rest was from fats. Refeeds and diet breaks were accounted for in targeting the calorie deficit. Now, here's, I think, the kicker, and that is that this individual did resistance and aerobic training 3 times per week each, respectively. And I think this is the important point. If you are exercising, you have a lot more buffer room or flexibility in terms of the quantities and types of calories or macronutrients that you eat. If you're burning a lot of that energy by way of heavy resistance training paired with aerobic training, it's probably less important about the macronutrient composition or the types of carbs you eat or how much carbs you eat compared to if you're just sedentary.
Yes and no. As we just learned in the last video, your metabolism physical activity is a very little part of it. And within that physical activity, there's NEAT, which takes up a lot of that physical activity. And NEAT is non-exercise. So the exercise you get by mistake, the exercise I get from moving my hands too much when I talk, that type of exercise is not even counted in that number. So how is, I don't care how much you're working out, the top limit would be 15%, and you're dealing with 70% of your body just burning calories. So why does this diet only work for people who are working out or who are fit already? I hear that so often. And then with the thermogenesis, apparently high carb makes you burn hotter, so that number increases as well. So it's mathematically impossible for what he just said to be true. They don't have a lot more wiggle room. They have, maybe they have more wiggle room. I grant it, but a lot more, and it's what's moving the needle. I'm not seeing it according to what I've researched. Again, I can be wrong.
Now, we know many people have changed their body composition in extraordinary ways on a low carb, low glycemic index diet. But many of these people are also sedentary. I've seen the comments. I've met many of you who have done this, and you admit that you should focus a little bit more on exercise and prioritize muscle and the like. But it turns out that because individuals who are very physically fit and burning through a lot of these energy, whether
that's another conversation of like the chicken or the egg. Maybe they're sedentary because they've been over nourishing their bodies, and they don't have good access to their fat stores. So their main energy they don't have good access to. They're insulin sensitive, so they're not really getting much energy by the way of glucose or by the way of sugar. So if they start eating a high carb diet first, maybe they're not sedentary no more. So like if you're just going to sit on the couch and eat high carb, I still think it will work. Honestly, it's almost impossible from my experience to sit still. I can sit still to do work. I have mental focus, but like I want to keep moving, and it's a natural urge that I did not feel on carnivore, that I did not feel on keto, that I did not feel honestly any time in my life, other than when I was young and played basketball all day and played sports all day and was outside in the summers, getting tan. But yeah, this sounds not like, I don't think he's lying. I just think it's leaving out that possibility that maybe carbs are driving the sedentariness or the lack thereof.
Excess energy, and they're in a calorie deficit, so they're able to dip into these energy stores and manipulate the different hormones, glucagon, cortisol, insulin, and so forth. As a consequence of being in a calorie deficit, these folks are able to shed the body fat, and they have more buffer room because they are exercising. And I know I'm biased, and you can see my bias here, but it's because scientifically this makes sense, and we now have research. So if you are eating a higher carbohydrate diet and you're worried about your body composition, please just prioritize exercise. Now, this doesn't mean that a high carbohydrate and high glycemic index diet is best for long-term metabolic health. We know that having lower glycemic index carbs from whole real foods paired with exercise and possibly a little bit of calorie restriction and diet breaks and so forth is optimal for both metabolic health and body composition. But we do have case reports and observational anecdotal reports from people who are eating relatively high glycemic index and high carbohydrate diets, and they still lose body fat. So I think there's a little bit more nuance to the conversation about the carbohydrate insulin model of obesity, as well as the energy deficit model and the energy balance model.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot more nuance because your body's burning hotter, the thermic effect goes up, and that might cover some of the exercise you're not getting, and then your exercise almost naturally goes up. So yes, nuance, but in the other direction as well. Just because of study, it doesn't necessarily disprove what he's been doing. I don't understand that the energy in trying to disprove this, or trying to make it so it's for this special elite set of people. We're pretty much the same. We're made out of the same shit.
It comes to body weight regulation, I think both arguments make a lot of sense, and we have case studies and reports from David Ludwig and Carla Ebling, I think is her name, that does a lot of research with Ludwig, on the idea that a low carb diet and being in a state of ketosis might make you more energetically efficient and, might have a calorie and muscle sparing effect and beyond. But that being said, I think we do have pretty good data now to suggest that if you're exercising, you have more wiggle room in your diet. And that's the thesis of today's video. That's my own anecdotal report that my vantage point that I've.
We're going to end it there, but every person I've ever listened to, even Greg Doucette, Coach Greg, yeah, even Coach Greg, he argues, do not try to count your exercise in with your calorie totals. That's a surefire way of staying fat, because it's so up and down. You just don't know how much calories you're burning. You can get like a trend on your watch, but I don't trust my watch. Like my watch, 1,146 calories through just exercise. I don't know. I ran a 5K today, been walking, got about 15,000 steps in at the moment. It's 5:30 p.m. So I don't know, but I know it's not what's moving the needle. And people shouldn't be afraid to try things, especially people coming from a carnivore diet, because you have to watch so much carnivore content in order to. I speak for myself. I had to watch so much in order to unbrainwash myself from straight fat and honestly, I do find, I know fat is going to come back into my diet when I get in shape. I think I have enough fat on me to handle my hormonal needs, but healthy fats or fat in general, I don't think should be demonized either. It seems to be one without the other that makes not metabolically, but seems to push weight loss, seems to push eating as to satiety and not gaining. And I've experienced both with the carb diet or sugar diet and the carnivore diet, but the sugar diet, I'm able to adhere to it way better. Tomorrow, I have no doubt that I'll be back to eating rice and lean meat and my juice in the morning, maybe a couple pieces of candy, maybe a cup of sherbet, maybe whatever it is, a bowl of oatmeal, a potato. There's so many options that I love that I don't. Eating the chicken breast feels like cheating. Eating just a plain chicken breast with some teriyaki sauce and rice. It feels like a cheat meal, and it's the first thing I had that was savory all day, and it tastes so good compared to what it tastes like when I was eating pizza for lunch and McDonald's for dinner. So I don't know. Love this guy's content, I really do, but I think, like he said, his bias was showing, and he doesn't have to defend what he's doing because it's obviously working for him. As long as he's comfortable in his skin and his health markers look good, I suggest he keeps going. So I want to start adding to the end of these videos. None of this is health advice. Don't listen to me. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor on YouTube. So get your information from somebody who is qualified. I'm just here to share my journey to 195. And thank you for the subscribers. We're up to 76. Please keep subscribing. Let's get to 100. Peace.